and welcome to Straight Talk with Arun Kumar, where everything is on the table, nothing is off limits, anything and everything under the sun will be discussed. Today's topic is about an emotional issue, an unfortunate and ghastly incident which happened on July 10th. This was Pakistan-sponsored incident which happened in Kashmir. It killed many innocent Hindu pilgrims who were on their pilgrimage to Amarnath Yatra. So to talk about this incident, what exactly happened, to listen to the common people's voice, what they think about it, we have two Kashmiri folks who came to my show today. Let's welcome them. We have Rakesh Kaul. Hi Rakesh, how are you?
Very well, and thank you for having us.
Sure. Rakesh is the author of the book of Last Queen of Kashmir. And we also have Rabinder Kumar. Hi Rabinder, how are you?
Fine. Thank you very much for having us here.
Yeah, so I don't really know how to start. So because this is a very emotional situation, very unfortunate incident. This had many people killed and several injured, right? So Rakesh, let's start with you. Let's cut to the chase. What do you think exactly happened that day?
So, what happened that day was an attack by Pakistan-sponsored Lashkar-e-Toiba. And it was a ghastly incident, Arun. But because in India we have a tendency to be very episodic, and we are dealing with an enemy that has a very systematic game plan. Nobody in India has really covered the totality, the gravity, and the criticality of what this incident actually reveals.
Yeah, you have to be specific because enemies, we have homegrown enemies too.
Yes.
And we have, of course, our Pakistan.
We have Pakistan,
right,
and then their collaborators in the valley.
Yeah.
Now, let me give you a little bit of context and share it with your viewers, and then we'll dive into each one of these in greater detail. I want to go back to January 1990, when the genocide of Kashmiri Pandits occurred in the valley. Our enemies
Minorities, genocide,
were delighted.
Yep.
They had accomplished over 700 years the complete elimination
of Hindus.
of Hindus in the valley. But there were still some symbols left. So, in 1994, on 17th July, in modern India's history,
First attack.
was the first attack
Yep.
on Amarnath.
Yep.
A Hindu sadhu and a yatri were abducted by the Harkat-ul Ansar, led at that time by a gentleman that most viewers today now will recognize, Maulana Masood Azhar. This is now
He's a terrorist, he's not a gentleman.
this terrorist, certified by everybody and waiting to be certified by the United Nations, had it not been for the physical protection he gets in
From
Pakistan,
Yep.
and the veto right that
Yep.
he gets from our northern neighbor who
Yep.
have blocked the UN resolution.
Yep.
To him goes
China.
the black mark of being the first person. And I will explain shortly as to why this is so important that Amarnath be eliminated.
Yeah, let's talk at high level and then we'll come back.
Yeah. On August 2, 2000 was the next attack. There are estimates that anywhere from 34 to 89 pilgrims and yatris and porters were killed by Lashkar-e-Taiba. On July 20th, 2001, there was the third attack on which 13 persons died. Now, let's not forget, on 26th May 2008, there was the Amarnath land shrine battle,
Yep.
where for 60 days
Yep.
the valley in Jammu was completely paralyzed,
Yep.
again instigated by the same people.
Yep.
Then in 2014, something that people have forgotten, on the Baltol route, because there are two ways to access the shrine, one through Pahalgam, the other one through Baltol.
Right.
There was an altercation. This one was between the locals and the Lankar, the people who come and open the kitchens where food is offered to the pilgrims. a massive fight broke out. There was a fight between the Poniwalas and the Lankar people. 50 people were injured, several were killed, 150 tents were burnt, 70 gas cylinders were turned into weapons and exploded. 12 CRPF Jawans were injured. A side comment. In 2014, another yatra, Kausar Nag Yatra, was completely suspended. We will talk about that. And then finally, July 10th, 2017, we had 7 pilgrims killed. But just before July 10th, and I will share some more facts. In May, Kashmir Valley has historically celebrated the Kheer Bhavani Jeshta Ashtami festival.
Right.
This year, and nobody ever commented on it, this year only 345 Hindus went there. Last year there were 12,000. When Rabinder and I were there would be 300,000. Look at the numbers for Amarnath. This year we will be lucky to have 230,000. 3 years ago that number was 600,000.
Do you think this is a strategic ploy to discourage Hindus from coming there?
I would say it's beyond discourage.
Okay.
I would say operation
Eliminate
has
them?
been accomplished.
Right.
It is done.
Not yet. There are a few more thousands of Hindus to kill.
Sir, according to official government reports, 208 Hindu temples have been wiped out.
Right.
Community members believe that that's close to 500. Obviously, in this environment, what do you think is happening?
Right.
The local land mafia is coming to the trustees. Some of these trustees are very important people.
Yep.
Very important people.
Correct, they are.
And saying to them, you know, nobody is visiting these temples. And deals are being orchestrated.
Okay, we have a call. Okay. Hello, welcome to Straight Talk. Can you mention name and location, please? Hello? Okay, I think we missed the call. All right, we'll move on to Rabinder and come back.
Please.
Rabinder, what do you think? What do you think about this whole incident?
As Rakeshji pointed out, it's a larger plan. Larger plan is primarily to wipe out every signature of the Hindu past of the Kashmir. Amarnath just happens to be one of the calls which has to be destroyed. Every single temple in Kashmir now has a corresponding Islamic name associated with that.
Temple?
Yes, for example, the Shankaracharya temple.
Right, Shankaracharya.
It is called now Takht-e-Sulaiman. Okay. Then we have Sharika temple, which is supposed to be the Sri Chakra where it is worshipped. She is this Shodashi, and that temple is now Kohe Maran, has been renamed.
So what is the rationale behind giving them Islamic names to?
Because that is the mechanism of changing the history.
Okay.
When you change the history, you change the narrative. When you change the narrative, therefore you are actually obliterating the past.
Finally, eliminate the identity.
Eliminate the identity of this place. And this is not these few temples I mentioned. This is the systematic thing which is happening. Anantnag,
Yes.
that is called Islamabad.
Yep.
in Kashmir for long. And unfortunately, the Government of India, ASI, has also accepted this and changed the name. Srinagar is now renamed as Shahr-e-Khas. So this is
anything which has a Hindu name needs to have a equivalent Islamic
absolutely.
Urdu name.
And actually they are therefore changing the history. For example, the very fact that the Kashmir Valley, which has the legend of the connected with Maharshi Kashyap,
Yes.
that has been changed after the Islam came to this, and then a tribe in Arabia called, they call it Kush.
Yes.
And that they associate it with now with Kush, the Kashmir.
And that's how those the Hindu mountains were named.
No. That's a separate.
different,
Yeah,
okay.
this is a tribe in Kush.
right.
So they have systematically creating the artificial history which had no roots earlier, no connections. But idea is to obliterate the corresponding connection. If you, the people will forget. Memories of the people are lost, are small. If they stop coming to Amarnath Yatra, if they stop coming to Kausar Nag, etc., these stuff, or forget about that there was a Sri Shankaracharya temple, etc., then the connection is lost.
Yeah. And
you can wipe out the history.
Rakesh, let me ask you.
I want to if for the viewers, I want to just build on that.
Right.
Because viewers have to understand what an implacable enemy we are dealing with. Today, viewers who decide to take the risk of going to the valley, they may end up at a place called Gulmarg. It's not Gulmarg, it's Gauri Marg. It was named after Parvati.
Wow.
And
Gauri Marg.
Yusuf Chak.
Oh, it's Gauri Marg.
Yes.
Oh, as in way to go. Oh,
Gauri Marg.
I see.
It was Parvati. Yusuf Chak is the person who changed that name. Sir Orwell Stein, one of the most distinguished historians of who had come to India and written a lot about Kashmir, he has completely validated that this fraud that now even has been accepted in official records called Pir Panchala, that was Devi Panchala. There's only one Panchala Devi. There's only one Panchala tribe. It's Draupadi's tribe. She is the Panchala princess.
Is that how that Pir Panjal Pass came?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, there are two. There's an Uttar Panchalas and then Dakshina Panchalas.
Okay.
The Draupadi's was in the plains,
Right.
but the corresponding Uttar Panchalas were there, Panchala Deva mountains.
Right.
So there is no such thing like a Pir Panchala. But to Rabindraji's point, this is all part of building a narrative that is a narrative that this house of lies, I call them the house of lies, has been systematically building. Now, let me pick up on this. The direct attack on the pilgrims, tragic as it is,
Hindu pilgrims.
it's really only the tip of this octopus that we are dealing with. Now, one tentacle of the octopus, they always say Kashmiriyat. Every time somebody mentions the term Kashmiriyat, think Jahannam Niyat. Because I'll give you an example. Just day before yesterday, and not a tourist, not an angry tourist, the head of Indian Express, Chandigarh Bureau, went on this yatra. And I think it was on July 19th that she wrote an article in the Indian Express. From Jammu to Baltal, a journey of 16 hours, sir. There was not a single bathroom that this poor woman could use.
Wow.
This is Kashmiriyat's true face. This is what in 2008 they refused to give land where temporary bathrooms could be placed. This is for what Omar Abdullah in the House of Parliament said, Kashmiris will lay down their life, but they won't part with land so that a temporary bathroom can
See,
be
when you
placed.
talk about politicians, Jamhuriyat and Kashmiriyat often comes up, right? They always say Jamhuriyat and Kashmiriyat. I think that's just a nara they use. I don't think they really follow it or they have any respect for it.
The term is a very late term. There was no Kashmiriyat. It was coined by, I think, Sheikh Muhammad Abdullah, if I am not wrong about it.
Right.
That, remember, the Sheikh Muhammad Abdullah's party, his name was Muslim Conference.
Yes.
Okay. It was
Before it got named to national.
before you
conference.
go to national conference.
Yeah.
In order to feed and the delusions of the central central
Very good friend of Jawaharlal Nehru.
Yes, and
Yeah, you need to mention
that's
that.
why I said the delusions of the central government during the Nehru's period. to feed that, and he coined a term called Kashmiriyat. Now notice that in the same, after the Kashmir was, the Maharaja left, abdicated the throne.
Yeah, Hari Singh.
In this, Maharaja Hari Singh.
Yeah.
The same the Kashmiri parliament, we have no minority rights there.
Yeah.
The majority community is the minority there,
Yeah.
Muslims, and therefore all reservations, etc., are for them.
It's a shame to all the secular media, which claims to be extremely secular and talk about minorities and rights. They do not care about Hindus who are minorities in Jammu Kashmir.
Yes, in fact, the usurpation of the narrative,
Yeah.
where the Jammu and Ladakh has been completely neglected entirely.
Yes, completely. Because most of the funding goes to Kashmir in the name of Jammu Kashmir.
Jammu Kashmir.
Yeah.
And the people, there is a systematic process of changing the demography of Jammu as well as the Ladakh. Unfortunately, Jammu people have not risen, and they have not really protested against it, partly because the Hindus, unfortunately, have been very tolerant traditionally, and they do not realize the dangers which
It's time to be intolerant towards this tolerance.
And this, and so for all the funding which comes, it primarily goes to Kashmir,
Right.
and to build their narratives, to build, and
All right, coming back to the Yatra, like Rakesh mentioned, this is not the first time when the pilgrimage has been attacked. It's been like around six times in the past. Why do you think it never caught the headlines? Media is always hungry for headlines. It publishes everything on the front page when something like this happens. Even if had this happened to one person, one child, during Hajj Yatra or any other non-Hindu religious pilgrimage, this would have been the front page of all the newspapers. Why do you think this is not in the front page of any newspaper?
Sir, remember what I started my comments with. I said I will expose the totality, gravity, and criticality.
Yeah, that's what they show there. We want you to do that.
Before we answer your question, let me first give one more dimension of what menace we are dealing with. We have talked about the direct deaths. We have not talked about the indirect deaths. Every year that pilgrims go on this yatra, the number of indirect deaths can be as high as 100 or over. In fact, this year, to date, till today, 48 indirect deaths have occurred.
What's an indirect death?
Indirect deaths is because of safety on the route.
No facilities.
No facilities, medical provisions. The Supreme Court of India on July 20th, 2012 asked that a panel be set up, that the governor of the state headed, eminent people be put on it. August 13th, they were supposed to in 2012 give a report. Deaths are occurring this year to date.
I'm sure no action has been taken.
48 deaths have occurred.
I'm sure no action has been taken.
This yatra
Right.
is a death trap
Right.
for devotees who come with deep love for Amarnath, and this is what they define there. Talk about narrative. Go and read any local narrative. See the appropriation of even Amarnath. You will find the house of lies propagating. Oh, this cave was discovered by a Muslim shepherd.
Is there an Islamic name for Amarnath also, or
not yet.
not
Who
yet?
knows?
Okay.
Who knows?
Okay.
When our historical records clearly show Nilmat Purana, 5th century, that it was a place of pilgrimage, that the Naka king went there.
So
Raj
what,
Taran
right. So
went
what do you think this incident? How do you think this incident will affect Jammu Kashmir? Do you think this will have any effect at all on Jammu Kashmir, or
It will be
the
for-
government or the people?
It will be forgotten. The government, our home minister said the Kashmiriyat is still alive. I don't know how to deal with our.
No, that's all nonsense. See, I think in this case,
But therefore, it will be forgotten.
now you talk about government. I think in this case, both BJP and PDP have completely failed
Absolutely.
in protecting the pilgrims from such attacks, especially because they got a tip off. I think there was about 50 whatever clues which the intelligence bureau had on June 25th, which is almost 20 days before the incident, and yet they did not take any action. What do you think about this, Rakesh?
Look, first, it's a combination of it'll be forgotten and a combination of it'll be buried.
Okay.
Now let me talk about the forgetting part. Have we forgotten that it was PDP that during the Amarnath land agitation
2008.
pulled its partnership away from the Congress
Correct.
that led to the fall of the government?
Correct.
That is their commitment to the cause that they represent. You think they will change their stripes just because they have come into power? No.
Yeah.
They are completely in the camp that, hey, this is all crocodile tears. The only redeeming feature, if there is one, is that India can hold its head high. That in spite of this dastardly attack, in a nation of 1.3 billion people, there was not a single episode of any kind of a negative reaction.
Let me tell you this. In fact, it's a shame on all Indians, especially the political parties, because a British member of parliament in the UK Parliament raised this issue, and he expressed deep regret. I think Bob Blackman, I guess his name was.
Yes.
It's a shame. And where are the Communist Party of India? Where are the Communist Party of India Marxists, these CPM so-called secular parties? Where are they? They don't say a word, but they're ready to defend for the mercy plea on any of these terrorists. They go to the president's office asking for a mercy plea, right? Then where are these people? What's happening to them? Why are they quiet? Where is Brinda Karat? Where is Prakash Karat? Where are these people hiding?
No, most importantly, once the crocodile tears ended, where are the locals? As of this date, I don't think the Pakistani national, Abu Ismail, who led this attack and who's part of Lashkar-e-Toiba, I don't think he has yet been caught by the Indian Armed Forces, though I'm sure there's a massive hunt. Why?
Because Pakistan is an open, safe haven for this terrorist. It has been approved by United States.
But the locals are giving him sanctuary.
Yes,
he is getting hiding from a collaborator somewhere there.
And when you talk about the stone pelters, they get compensated with financial package for pelting stones. You know that, right? The State Human Rights Commission of Jammu and Kashmir demanded an official financial compensation for the stone for the guy who was tied to the jeep.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
he was given financial compensation. Well, I don't know what 10 lakhs, something like that.
10 lakhs, yeah.
So where do you think are these parties? Where is CPI? Where is CPM? Where are the parties?
Actually, it's interesting to note that a few days prior to this, there was this huge demo which they had the demonstration organized across the world on Not in My Name.
Right. Yes. Okay. Oh, that's
Not in My Name.
Yeah.
And during the same period, something happened in Bangladesh, and this happened in Jammu and Kashmir. All the gang of the Not in My Name people were entirely missing in that. Number one. Number two, it is partly the Indian media, not all of Indian media, but at least part of the Indian media, who invariably create a narrative of this, what they call in lynch mob, etc., in India, right. Whereas the ones which are of the majority community, when they are killed, that is not mentioned at all.
No.
It's a systematic process.
It's totally religious in nature.
Yeah.
But again, I want to tie
right.
the stone pelters to Amarnath and the issue of forgetting, which is so bad in the Indian psyche, and also partly driven that our media never educates. They're very episodic. They never educate the public to know what's going on. Let's not forget that the first time what I would call agitational terrorism happened during the Amarnath land shrine agitation in Kashmir. That was when the biggest turnout of the local people occurred, which now we can see happens at terrorist funerals. 500,000 came out. It was noteworthy because it was the first time that women were brought out. And when these women were brought out, they were walking on the streets, stomping their feet, shouting, Ragda, Ragda,
Yep.
meaning crush India, crush India. So it was the Amarnath agitation that started this agitational terrorism that then became the mother of stone pelting crowds and everything that has followed.
I personally view stone pelters and terrorists in the same bucket. I don't make any distinction. However, the political parties always come up with an excuse on the stone pelters in their support. Obviously, National Conference and other anti-national parties, they say the stone pelters do that because there is no employment. Do you agree with that? Well, there is a gross unemployment in many other states in India. They don't pelt stones.
Just keep in mind, all over India, there is farmers are committing suicide.
Yes.
Okay. In Kashmir, not a single farmer has committed suicide.
Correct.
Why? Why have they not committed suicide? Why are they the banks in Kashmir are very strong? Why? Where does the money come from? This is important to realize. Therefore, saying that unemployment is the which is causing the stone pelting. There is a much more unemployment in rest of India.
Right.
We don't see the stone pelting happening over the rest of India. Is Kashmir special for that?
Yeah, I think these are sponsored by Pakistan. They're sponsored by Hurriyat. These are sponsored by the separatist parties like National Conference. And look at that. Mr. Omar Abdullah comes on the television. He's shedding crocodile tears. He's very sad.
Yes.
He won with 6% votes. 6%, a shameful margin of votes. That's how much. That's not margin. That's a total 6% votes.
Yes.
It's a shame. So, and he's shedding crocodile tears. And even Hurriyat and other parties, right? Like Syed Salahuddin he's in Pakistan.
Yeah, but
So yeah, he gives statements openly in front of the media. He goes to media and openly makes statements.
I mean, to me, it seems that he being part of the Jaish Muhammad, etc.
Correct.
You can understand that there. But what you don't understand is the Indian. What actually we understand, but what the rest of the Indians don't understand, that the politicians in Kashmir and politicians, some politicians in rest of India, how do they provide the external cover to these terrorists actually, systematically, and that is very dangerous.
So and like I was talking about the effects of this incident, right? I think this will discourage many tourists also. So this will have an impact on the economy also of the state of Jammu Kashmir, because there has been a 16,000 crores of loss in revenue through tourism. Do you think that will have an impact on the economy also, Rakesh? This and similar incidents like this.
Well, it's very interesting, when you look at the behavior of the big economic groups. Now, for example, one of the cash crops of Kashmir,
Right.
to the point about farmers, is apples.
Yes,
Number one crop.
correct.
Apples are exported to India. Okay. When you see the behavior of the Apple Growers Association, one finds something interesting. They were the first people to fund the creation of Jamaat-e-Islami.
Okay.
Jamaat-e-Islami was, by the way, created before even independence. So
Yeah.
it's not that it was created because of, occupation of India or any of the arguments that they make up. It was created by the apple growers and
Correct.
funded the birth of Jamaat-e-Islami. The second thing is, at every step of Kashmir's unfortunate history, they practice doublespeak.
Yep.
They are for terrorism politically, but they want the Indian money for their apples.
Right.
They will shout on the streets, but they will ship the apples here.
Yeah.
They will politically say GST over our dead body,
Yes.
while 70,000 will go apply and get forms and numbers.
Yep.
So the business community is a master at doublespeak and double games. But take jobs. Anywhere in the world, and whether you like it or don't like it, if an economy doesn't create jobs, what is the first thing people do? They say, you know what, there are few jobs, we want the jobs to go to the sons of the soil, right? I mean, it's natural. Do you know, sir?
No, I pelt stones.
Do you no? Do you know, sir, that if you go in the valley, if you had gone to the valley 30 years ago, you would see the locals in the paddy fields,
Right.
you'd see the locals working in carpentry, service trade. Today, do you see a single local doing that? They import 200,000 to 300,000 people from Bihar. They want to shake them.
Yep.
They want to sit back and they want to just collect a percentage, have somebody else do the work. They want money to come from Government of India. They want to collect a percentage.
Which they get.
Is they get. Yes.
It's when you talk economy,
Right.
I talk economy, it's not the economic model they are thinking.
Right.
They want to shake them.
Yep.
That's what they are asking for.
So what do you think, Rabinder? Do you think the government failed?
Government has completely failed. I don't think the
Why do you think
I
so?
don't think the central government understands the what is going on in Kashmir. They really don't understand it. On top of that, the persistent narrative of this secularism and Kashmiri, etc., which they push, actually dilutes it further.
Right.
Because you can't, when you create a narrative which is not in touch with the realities of at the ground, therefore you cannot get solutions. You will start seeing things in that, because that's what narrative you are trying to create.
Okay, that's fine. Then what about Mufti? Mufti is local. Mufti is from Kashmir, so she understands the situation better. Even her dad was a chief minister.
Yeah,
so
but
why is she not able to effectively counter these things?
Oh, because she has a face for India, and what internally they want. They are actually the front organization of Hurriyat.
Okay.
PDP is not something which is it's the front organization of the Hurriyat. They will never criticize the terrorists, local terrorists which are involved there. Burhan Wani, for example,
Right.
never have they criticized him,
Right.
etc., etc. They will therefore their purpose is to support Hurriyat on the surface organization.
Right.
Therefore, they present one view to India, and internally they do what they want to do. So PDP, even though they know actually the narrative, they are not going to tell you that, because that's not what their agenda is.
But we shouldn't stop at PDP. Congress party gave India its independence.
Right.
What does the head of the Congress party in Jammu and Kashmir state, Mr. Soos, say? Mr. Soos says, if he had his way, he would not have authorized any action against Burhan Wani.
Saifuddin Soos, he is an interesting character.
Okay. Now, you used a very interesting term. You said local, right? Now, Kashmir is a very complex situation, but I want to educate you on something. Saeed Jilani doesn't think of himself as a local.
Yeah.
In terms of his identity, he traces his identity to
Arabic or whatever.
wherever.
Right.
So, what you have, it's a very
He
interesting.
even denies to check the box on the application form which
Yes.
says Indian for the passport. Right.
It's a very interesting situation. It represents both a delusion but also an opportunity, which, for example, the government of India, like every other opportunity, has completely refused to exercise. Very few people know that the worst sufferers of what I call foreign Muslims today are Pakistan.
Right.
The worst sufferers of these foreign Muslims are the local indigenous people who became Muslims. As far back as Ali Shah's time, which was in the early 14th century, the historian Jonah Raja writes that these outside Muslims came, they took Ali Shah's gold,
Yeah.
they took his jewelry, they took his horses, they took his women. This is the king of Kashmir.
Yep.
That warning, fast forward to when the raiders came into Kashmir, into Baramulla. There's a very interesting man, Inayatullah. He actually accompanied the raiders from Lahore into Baramulla. He was one of the richest men there. His house became the center of the raiders' activities. In fact, the Pir, they had a religious scholar who was leading the raiders, a jihadi. He lived in Inayatullah's home. They commandeered local cinema hall or stadium or something.
So I have to interrupt. We will have another show
Okay.
specifically on the history of Kashmir, because I think, I'll let you finish, but
Yeah.
just to let you know, because I think many people in India do not know the history of Kashmir very well.
Yes.
I mean, I've been fed the history of Kashmir right from a childhood, but otherwise most people do not know. All they know is just about what happens in the valley and these anti-national parties like National Conference. But
I'll
yeah.
finish this point very quickly. After these guys raped, pillaged, killed the Hindus of Baramulla, they turned on Inayatullah. They took away everything of his.
Yes.
Today, the worst sufferers of the Pakistani militants are the Kashmiri Muslim women
Yep.
who are in the valley. Government never educates the public and says, you are going to be the worst sufferers of this road that you are traveling on.
And the most unfortunate thing is even they themselves do not know that they are the sufferers.
Yeah.
The victims themselves do not know that they are the sufferers.
The narrative has not been created.
Yep.
I mean, for example, as Rakeshji just pointed out, if the stories of this, what these raiders did and others did during historical periods, even to Muslims, if those narratives were created and those were published and made upon common knowledge, they would realize that. But that is completely no-no.
Then why do they have such a big problem when we say Islamic terrorism? Why do they have a problem with that phrase?
That is in some sense a global problem. It is partly created by the left, this narrative, and partly it is also created by the governments, primarily because they have to deal with the corresponding 1.6 billion people
Right.
of the Muslims in the world. Of course, 1.6 billion people are not terrorists, but even if it is 20%, which Pew Research has shown, 20-25%, that's a huge population.
I personally think, I'm not taking religious sides, but I personally think 80% of Indian population, which is Hindus, they have no security in the state of Jammu Kashmir, which is a part of India.
In Bengal, it's same
Right?
thing is true in Bengal.
Nobody cares about minorities in Kashmir.
Yeah.
They're ready to bend over backwards to impress minorities for the vote bank in the rest of the India. But when it comes to Kashmir, minorities are not Hindus or Sikhs or
They are not
Christians.
classified minorities.
Even Sikhs, yeah.
They are not classified minorities. It is the Muslims who are considered minorities.
Do you think this incident will create a further divide between Hindus and Muslims?
Well, I mean, I don't know how more worse the divide can get, but I do want to point out that when we talk about minorities in the valley, and this is another myth of the narrative that has been created, there are lots of minorities beyond the Hindus.
Yes.
You had a tiny group of Christians. They were eliminated.
Yes.
Nobody talks about their cleansing.
The Sikhs.
The Sikhs are still there, but that's a separate issue. We'll talk about that. You have the Shias, who are terrified of the Sunni oligarchy
Who are the majority Muslims?
and leading this
Yes.
mischief.
Yes.
The Shias are terrified. The Shias are watching. Today, in a brilliant article that Aarti Tikku Singh published about 3 weeks ago. Today in the valley there are 7,500 mosques. Traditionally the valley used to have a peer culture. You would have local shrines, people would go, very peaceful. Today, in the last 10 years, 1,000 new Wahhabi mosques have come up. And if you go see them, these are Met mosques. They have been funded. They estimate thousands of crores of money.
Right, right.
The people who are going there, the young people, they are encountering very fiery preachers, and it's a very different mindset, very different milieu. And even you can see on social media the generation of Kashmiri Muslims who grew up with this peer culture, they are watching with horror and they are saying, we don't want to be part of this. And so when we say minority, there are actually a lot of people in Kashmir who are Muslims who are themselves beginning to feel they are a minority in the valley and feeling threatened.
Yeah, there are instances where the Sunni Muslims tried to eliminate Shia Muslims, and there were cases where even Iran and other countries where the mosques were killed, mosques were abolished by Muslims because they are Shia. But the Sunni Muslims abolished the mosque because they're Shia.
Talking about tolerance, Mirwais, you know, he was in the news because the center he runs, the sad case, they turned on a policeman who was there to guard him, Muhammad Ayub Pandit. They killed him, savages. They broke every bone in his body. That poor unfortunate guy whose job was to guard the Mirwais. This very Mirwais is on the public record that the Ahmadiyas who were planning to hold a conference in Srinagar, he sent them a threatening warning. This is what's going on.
Fatwa?
It was worse than that.
Worse than that.
This is what's going on in Kashmir, that it's now beyond the Hindus. It's now gotten to the point where you got these zealots who have an interpretation of Islam, and they will not tolerate even those Muslims who believe in nonviolence, pluralism, and culture first.
I think this attack on the pilgrimage should be treated as an attack on India itself in the first place, and I think government should play a bigger role than just being laid back and giving some comments where they express regretful comments. You just pass on a comment and say, I regret this unfortunate incident in Twitter, and that's it. That's the end of story. I think the government should take a more pivotal role in handling this, especially when they've been tipped off by the Intelligence Bureau that such an untoward incident could happen, especially because of the growing tension between India and Pakistan. And of course, and I personally believe China has also an indirect or tacit role to play in this, although it's not tapping into this directly.
There are reports like that. Actually, the PDP Chief Minister herself has mentioned that. I don't know how. It is highly likely. I mean, China has been involved in lots of other insurgent movements within India.
Correct.
It would not be surprising that they are involved in.
And it's been openly issuing threats to India, war threats, in its national newspapers.
Yeah.
As you must have heard.
Yeah.
So what do you think? How should in situations like these, in an environment like this, the rehabilitation of Kashmiri Pandits, who by the way are minorities, is that a distant dream? Is that even possible? Or if it's possible, would they feel secure enough to go back?
So I think as India becomes a great nation, modern India, what has happened to the Kashmiri Pandits? Now, this is the 7th exodus of Kashmiri Pandits.
Right.
But every time there was a historical exodus, it was because the ruler was a Muslim ruler, came under the sway of zealots of his time, and they went after the Kafir. This is obviously tragic that the latest exodus occurred under a constitution that failed, under a government that failed. But what is saddest is that the problem is not even being officially recognized. In a landmark filing with the National Minorities Commission of India,
Yes.
where the chairman was sympathetic that the Kashmiri Pandits had suffered genocide, it is the government of India that put a small filing that the Kashmiri Pandits left of their own.
Who was the then government? National Conference?
No, central government.
Central government. I mean central.
Central
Who was it?
government.
Congress?
Congress, yeah.
Okay.
So, what has happened to Kashmiri Pandits, Kashmiri Hindus, if not dealt with, will be the biggest black mark on the emergence of this nation, that it could not protect its values, its patriotic citizens, whose only sin was India first and Hindus by birth. That was their only sin. In the last 700 years, I will challenge anybody to give me evidence that there has been a single act of violence by a Kashmiri Hindu against somebody of a different faith in the valley.
But then,
What a beautiful people,
Yeah.
whose only occupation was that they taught the Muslims, helped them become doctors, helped them become part of the noble
very,
profession.
very tolerant.
Tolerant people of love and compassion, and these people were thrown out.
In fact, the land belongs to them historically. Land belongs to the native
Yeah.
Kashmir Hindus historically. I think the invaders from Iran and other places came to Kashmir, and I think they took over the
Yeah,
land.
but that's not what you're talking about. We're talking about the government of India. Forget rehabilitation. They have not even officially accepted what crime was committed against
Right.
the Kashmiri Pandits.
Yeah, nice.
They have not given it a name, sir. The name we are given is we were migrants.
Migrant.
We are migrants.
It's such a shameful thing because migrant is totally different. In this case, they have been killed. They have been kicked out of their own homeland. That's not migrating. Migrating is like we came here. That's migrating.
Yes.
We came here legally to the United States. That's migrating. The case of 1990 is more of being kicked out, of rapes, killings, everything, right? Everything. That's not migration. So, anyway,
These
before-
are not killings, sir.
Yeah.
This is psychopathy. When you take a woman and you rape her and then you saw her,
Yep.
you saw her,
Yep.
this is
That's-
psychopathy.
Right. 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 Right.
It is exactly the kind of thing what ISIS would do.
Why do you think this is this pilgrimage, yatra, or I should say, this journey in English, is so important to Hindus?
You see, despite the peculiar narrative which India has, it remains a fact that India is integrated through these pilgrimages. That my pilgrimage is in Rameshwaram, and person from Rameshwaram's pilgrimage is in Amarnath. This integrates India actually. It's a sacred land of our people. And so as they eliminate these symbols of this pilgrimage, what you find is that people will in the rest of the place will forget about this and get isolated from that.
What do you think, Rakesh? We will end up the wrap of the show in a couple of minutes. What do you think? Why do you think this pilgrimage is so important for Hindus?
Okay. For Hindus, we have to accept the fact that as Hinduism's quest for the nature reality evolved, it peaked in Kashmir. The Chinese scholar Hun Sang says, and others have said, the crown of Hinduism was in Kashmir, in a place called Sharda Peeth University.
Yeah.
Nalanda, Takshila were Buddhist centers. Hinduism was peaked in Kashmir. It was not without reason that Aurangzeb's advisors told him, convert the Kashmiri Brahmins and all Hindus will follow. And that was when Guru Tegh Bahadur laid his life for Hindus
for the
and
Hindus.
Kashmiri
Yep,
Pandits.
yep.
So, Kashmir had a very special place. Within Kashmir and its role in Hinduism was Amarnath. In Amarnath was taught the secret of immortality. Mischief. In 2000, the state legislature set up a shrine board, Amarnath Shrine Board. Go read what its constitution is. It is basically, with all due respect, a travel agency to a frozen museum. Any center that is a spiritual center, you will see educational materials, you will see conferences, you will see retreats, you will see scholars coming, because ultimately it's all about empowerment. You empower people through knowledge, you empower people through consciousness, you empower people through beauty, aesthetics. Nothing. The legislator shocked it.
Right. Talking about the shrine board, the Amarnath Ji shrine board, is it not required? Is it not mandatory for the travel agency to legally register with the shrine board before you take the yatra?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. The reason why I asked that question is, in this case, I mean, you brought the topic of shrine board. In this case, the driver apparently is not registered with the shrine board. So what happens if they don't register? I mean, what do they lose? Do they lose any securities, or do they lose any facilities, or?
It is slightly shrouded in mystery. I don't think the real story has come up. Initial hoopla about that, someone from Muslim community, who was a driver and he saved it. But a lot of challenges have come to that narrative, and then suddenly the whole thing has died up. Nobody has picked up that story and investigated it and presented it. There is something going on there which we do not quite understand.
Okay. So before we wrap up, Rakesh, what do you think should be the next course of action for two parties involved here? One is the government, right, which kind of failed, and two, for the people who will forget this incident anyway in the next couple of days, because this has not grabbed the headlines of any newspaper yet. So what do you think should be the next course of action?
So I think we have to basically recognize that Kashmir is in the ICU. It's in a very bad state, and we have to save Kashmir. We have to save Kashmir for everybody.
When you say Kashmir, I want to stress it's Jammu and Kashmir.
Yeah. Jammu, Kashmir, Ladakh. And we have to save it for the Kashmiri Muslims, we have to save it for the Kashmiri Hindus, we have to save it for the Buddhists, we have to save it for India as a country that stands for rule of law and order, constitution. I think we are actually losing ground, and at some point the government of India has to recognize that they can no longer be in free fall. They have to arrest the situation, and they have to fix the problem. And we can have a complete show on what are the steps that need to be taken. I do believe that compulsive steps such as use of the army can only be of limited use. Steps of persuasion.
That could be another big discussion, the AFSPA.
Yes.
AFSPA, that could
but
be
the steps of persuasion, like for example, education, not just education of the Kashmiri Muslims who have been taken control of by the madrasas, but educating the Indian public and saying this is what's going on.
Sorry to interrupt, just before wrap, we have a caller. Hello, welcome to Straight Talk. Please mention your name and location.
Hi, my name is Vilas Reddy from New Jersey.
Yeah, hi Vilas. Yeah, go ahead.
I tuned the discussion.
Yes, go ahead.
I want to convey one
sure.
information.
Yes,
recently, we did prayers for Amarnath Yatra here in New Jersey, inside the Tapitam. So generally, the thing is, when attacks happen in India, so we have to together, and we have to as an Indian, we have to come across whatever religion, whatever caste, what anything. So you have to give condolence, or you have to come unity, and we have to give support to Indian government. So because this is not a discretion, or it's not a divided India. Under Modi government, everyone is doing good, and it should more attack. So we have to do Pakistan as an individuality, because we have to separate the Pakistan, because they are encouraging these all the incidents. The terrorists are coming from Pakistan, or they are encouraging this. So we have to isolate Pakistan. So as an Indian, we have to unity, and we have to show our courtesy to India.
Yeah, that's right, Vilas. I think Mr. Modi is doing that on a global platform. He's constantly trying to show the reality or the real face of Pakistan. I think he's doing a good job on that. So anyway, to summarize, what's your message, or what's your question?
This situation happened because of past 60 years. In Kashmir, they are not a part of India. The people, okay, because the Muslims or some people are thinking they are supporting to the Pakistan still. So that is not good. So we have to encourage the local people. That brings education and poverty. So they have to give the jobs.
Right.
So that shows Modi government to give more importance to the PDP government. So it will bring. So overnight it won't. Because
right.
60 years.
Right.
We cannot expect in 3 years all these things, all the shit will.
We can comment after. Yeah, that's right. We got the message. Thank you, Vilas. Thank you for calling Straight Talk. Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
So very quickly, I want to respond to that. One, yes, we should support Modi government. We should support government of India. We should be above religion, and we should all join hands. But you can't ignore the trend lines. And maybe you didn't hear the early part of the discussion. At Kheer Bhavani, 2 months ago in May, attendance of pilgrims was down to 325. Last year it was 12,000. Historically, it used to be several hundred thousand. Amarnath attendance this year will be around 2.2 lakhs. It used to be 3 years ago 600,000. Temples and shrines is not a matter of history. 27th April 2017, the temple of Bhag Shikha Devi in Anantnag was desecrated. So, sir, the metrics and trend lines are going in the wrong direction. And our job here is to educate you and the public that yes, we support government of India, yes, we support the government of J&K state, but they, once having gotten our support, they have to say it can't be business as usual. We'll just do crocodile tears and lip service. They have to demonstrate they have a plan to fix this problem and bring Kashmir back to what it used to be.
That's fine. That could be a BJP supporter. That's fine.
I just want to add to that, for example, in the case of the Jammu and Kashmir, the whole narrative, actually the emphasis of the government, I am supportive of the Modi government. However, their actions and the policies in Kashmir have not been successful, because the whole narrative they have made is of Kashmiri Sunni Muslims of Kashmir. Jammu people, actually, if they would have been taken into confidence, it's a totally different narrative. Ladakh people, it's a totally different narrative. In fact, the narrative would have shifted entirely if those things were given emphasis, but they have isolated them, and people are very upset on the ground. I can tell you that because I interact with those people, and therefore there's a policy failure here of the BJP government in Kashmir, not in India. They are doing fantastic job in India.
Okay, that's all the time we have for the show today. Thank you very much, all the viewers. And we at Mana TV and TV5 strongly condemn this ghastly and unfortunate incident. And we pray to God to give strength and grace to the families affected. Thank you very much. God bless America. Jai Hind.
Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you.